Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and today I'm here with Scott Nicholson. Scott is the author of 15 novels and numerous collaborations, short stories, screenplays, children's books, comic books, foreign editions and other digital products. Scott has also signed with Amazon's Thomas and Mercer imprint last year, so we'll be talking about that today. So welcome, Scott.
Hey Joanna, good to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on the show. So for anyone who doesn't know you, why don't you just start by telling us a bit more about you and your writing background?
Oh, well, I was a failed painter and then I was a failed rock and roll musician, so writing was the last creative thing left. Started, I did it when I was a kid, but I got serious in about 1996 and had the goal of getting traditionally published, which I accomplished with a lot of luck in 2002, and I had 6 mass market paperbacks out. In a couple of years where I couldn't get a book deal, I was still writing, and the market had changed so much, and it could have just been my writing, but when this digital thing happened, it took me about a year of watching it, and I was under the old brainwashing of only hacks self-published, so I basically wasted a year on the sidelines studying it. But then I jumped in, and once I started rolling, it was like, wow, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I've just been full tilt, full heart ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, can you explain a bit more about, the best thing that's ever happened to you? What do you mean by that? I mean, how has self-publishing, changed your life?
Well, I did have an agent, several agents, publishers, did some small press books, had lots of professional short stories, but there were always intricate layers and a maze you had to go through to get to the reader. And I had like my 800 rejection slips. I did everything. I studied everything you're supposed to do. Read the articles about get an agent, go to these conferences, blah blah blah, and followed the rules like a good little soldier. And I had a mid-list career, and it was very mediocre. And now I get to, it's up to me. Every little thing I do my own covers, formatting, marketing, basically it's all run right here. And this is my life and I love it. I love every, I'm a little red hen type, I like to reap the fruit of my labor, and I feel that's fair. And because I'm very passionate about my writing and what I do, so to me, it's perfect. If I want to write a book and publish it and take the shot from the critics, fail or succeed on my own merits, then that's perfectly fine with me. So it's just a different lottery system, I guess.
No, that's a good point. So, therefore, how come you've signed with Amazon's Thomas and Mercer then? Tell us about that.
Well, that was back in the end of the summer, I guess, August, because I'd had Liquid Fear out. This is an interesting story because Liquid Fear was going to be my breakout book in the old traditional way, and my agent had this editor interested, and they made me write an outline. I'd had about 6 chapters written, and then the outline was confusing, and so they passed on it, and I was like, well, of course it's confusing because I haven't written the book yet. And I'm not really an outliner. I'm a writer. I write the story and I discover the story when I'm finished. And then back around the end of last year, I was like, this book's sitting here and nobody's around to tell me not to write it, so I'm going to write it. And I wrote it in 3 months and put it out, and it hit like number 30 on the Kindle list, maybe better, I don't remember. And that was about the time Amazon was getting aggressive about finding authors. So it was luck and timing, but also what I call pushing your luck, when you have to do the work or you're not going to get lucky. So it was a matter of timing, and I got picked up and did have a 2-book. The second book came out. I wrote it last fall, and both Liquid Fear and Chronic Fear are out, and hopefully the series will continue with Amazon. And I went with Amazon because everything they're doing has helped me as a writer and helped every other writer I know that's seriously gone after it. They're just, taking those layers out. But you might say I'm contradicting myself because I just put another layer in between me and the reader, but obviously with one email they can reach tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of readers, and I can't really do that on my own. So I see it as from a career move, it's kind of insurance. You know, I believe in diversification, and that's just another way to ensure those books will always have readers. So, well, at least for the short term, nobody knows what's going to happen next year. It's changed so drastically in 2 years, and I expect in 2 years it'll be just as different from today.
And in fact, we're actually having this conversation because I got an email from Amazon about your book, and went, wow, look, they're promoting you. What's going on? And so did you approach Amazon, or did they pick you up based on your success?
As far as I know, Amazon has never been approached. I don't know if they get solicited by agents and things. They may be at this point. I do know they go after high-profile authors. You read about it in the papers once in a while, like they got Ed McBain's estate. So I think they are seeking out people, but I don't know for indie authors like me, I've never heard of anyone emailing them and then getting a deal that way. It seems to be they watch what's happening and then they grab people that are performing well and seem to have some kind of presence. And I think the numbers have a lot to do with it. I'm not a big numbers guy, but if you're up there on the charts and you stick a while, you're going to get noticed. Amazon is watching what's going on. That's why they're so successful.
And what type of numbers are we talking about so people know? Can you tell us, like, how much were you selling when you were at that level on the list?
Well, that's a totally different. I believe every 3 weeks is a new era in this digital age. And back then, I had less than 1,000 sales a day, and that was enough to stay in the top 100 or top 30 or whatever. So now I hear it's about 3 times that. If you want to be up there, you got to sell a huge number. So again, it was luck. If I had those numbers today, I'd probably be top 300. In fact, Liquid Fear is probably around number 180 today. So in a way, you could argue, well, I sold it better than Amazon did, but then it's a different era too. And I did use up my first whatever. I sold like 70,000 in 10 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And then it trailed off. Books just have their moment and then they fade. But they come back, so that's good too.
And do you think, because you write thriller, horror, lots of different things, don't you? Have you found any particular thing has really worked for you?
Well, I believe horror is still a small market, and that's why it's not a calculated decision, because I love thrillers, and I've always liked Dean Koontz and those types, the way he blends genres together. Stephen King's one of my just staples, and reading Robert McCammon right now. I just love those. I just love good storytellers, Elmore Leonard and William Goldman, those kind of thriller writers. So I kind of want to diversify both artistically and commercially, I guess. It's not really calculated, but I've tried a lot of different things: children's books, fantasy, science fiction, short stories. So I'm just interested in a lot of things.
No, and I like that you can be so diverse. You're not stuck in one area at all. So what about your sort of prolific writing? I read a blog post of yours about how you thought a moment had arrived, and then you realised you had to get back on the bike and write another book. How is that type of life? Do you think the speed is affecting quality at all?
I don't think that writing faster means writing worse. I've done my best work when I wrote faster. Most books I can write in 3 months, and they're as good. One book took me 18 months, and I don't think it was any better. I think writing is so emotional and personal. I've noticed the days where I feel like I'm struggling, and I get my 2 page. I have a goal of like 2 pages a day minimum. If I get those 2 pages done, and it took me 4 hours, and every bit of it was a fight, and then the next day I get up and write 2 pages in 30 minutes, and then I'm in the zone and I keep writing, and I write 8 or 10 pages. Then you go back and look at it, you can't tell which pages were the struggle and which were the flow. It's all how you feel it when you're writing it, but when you go back and look, nobody can tell the difference.
Yeah, I think that is great wisdom, actually, and people need to listen to that because it's so true. And I don't think when we read it later on, we can't tell either, can we?
Right. No. And we can't even remember the feeling. I don't think. And I can barely remember some of my books, but I can kind of. But I look back at them and I can see the psychoanalysis, you know. And I used to edit other people's books, and it's like, man, you can see their fear and their abuse and their pain in there. It's like, well, you can't hide that stuff. So, you know, it's really like when you're editing, it's almost like psychoanalysis too.
Yeah. And so just sort of, I wonder if you can tell us anything about working with Amazon. I mean, is it like traditional publishing where they expect you to re-edit everything and you go through another process, or do they literally, they're buying your book and it's just going under their name?
Well, I had an excellent editor. I never really got edited. I've never been edited before, at least on the conceptual level. I've had proofreaders, and you know, just I had a great editor at Amazon, a developmental editor. Went through the book and was really liked the series and was hard on me. You know, something didn't make sense. Liquid Fear was designed to be a head shrinker, like a Christopher Nolan type thing, where you sometimes felt a little bit lost. And you know, he kind of reined me in on some of that stuff and challenged me to don't be too far, or you know, if you're going to be out there, have a reason for it. You got to tie everything together. Basically, it's cheating the reader if you just pull the rug out from under their feet over and over again, and there's no ground underneath. So that I think it really sharpened the Liquid Fear, and then Chronic Fear. Of course, we were working from my first draft, so we got to shape it as it went, and that was really satisfying to me. You know, just to have somebody calling me out.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and I see this with editing, like, and I've used a number of editors now, and I find that I want to be challenged to improve my writing and improve what we can do. And I see that actually, and I know we can hire them, but actually that's one of the benefits of traditional publishing.
Right. But that doesn't mean all editors are good.
No.
Especially if they have a ulterior motive, you know, it's like, oh, we want to make you into Stephen King or whatever, and they start shaping you or telling you, or even before you write what you ought to be writing. Here's what's popular. Here's the trend. Can you crank me out a vampire romance? And that's how writers, I think, just get lost. I think you have to be relentless in your vision. You have to say what you need to say, and you have to defend that. If somebody's not into that and they're not going to support that, you got to leave them behind. I don't care how much money they have. You got to say goodbye.
No, I think that's really good. Being strong and what you want for your career is very true. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, because Joe Comrath, obviously, you know, poster boy, and you're sort of a friend, you guys do a lot of promotion together, recently wrote this article about saying Amazon will kill other publishers, and there have been quite a few people offended by this, bless them. I wondered what your view is. Is Amazon going to, you know, get rid of everybody else?
Well, I love Joe, and I admire his style, but I'm usually about 50 to 90 degrees opposite of him on most issues. You know, a year ago he was telling me he was going to make most of his money on Overdrive through public library lending, and obviously that didn't happen because we all pulled out of Overdrive and put our books in Amazon Select, but who has a great lending library, by the way, which is going to take over the world, which is one of the things Amazon's doing right, that the major publishers are backing off from it. They're afraid of piracy or loss of something. I'm not control, I guess, is really what they're afraid of. While Amazon sees, wow, unlimited numbers of readers, easy reading, cheap reading, and volume sales. You know, the Tim O'Reilly says it's obscurity we need to fear and not piracy. And Cory Doctorow, other people have been talking about that for years, who are far ahead of me and being progressive. But recently with Select, I've really gotten aggressive about giving away books. I've probably given away 300,000 copies since Christmas because this is a historic opportunity. These library shelves of the future are being abandoned by the big publishers. I would love to be in there. I want to take those places, not to be arrogant or get rich, but I believe in what I say, and I want to be there. And if it takes somebody reading me for free, that's fine with me. I'm living a comfortable life. I'm not rich, but I get to do everything I want, which is sit here and write. That's all I want to do. So giving away books helps that happen. I'm all for it. I think publishers are failing in multiple areas, and I actually think Barnes and Noble is killing itself. I think they're starting to catch on. They were walling off the indies to favor their corporate books at higher prices and protecting their brick and mortar stores. And I doubt if they'll survive the year. Other people think they are a great thriving market, but I see them declining myself. But we'll see what happens. I may be back in Barnes and Noble in the summer. I don't know yet, but we'll see how the Select program works out. But traditional publishers are keeping their insistence on high prices, protecting the paper books, protecting their distribution control, and this is a bigger issue than just publishing, but the corporatization, pleasing shareholders, and the whole structure of a corporation, and who's making all the decisions. Some CEO making $60 billion, and that's going to color the performance of. No, nobody cares about the writers. Traditional publishing is not about the writers; it's about the corporation. So now, independent publishing is about the writer and the reader. How much are we willing to pay to meet in the middle and get all these other guys out of our way? $2, $3, 99 cents, free. That's cool. If 5 years ago somebody told me I could meet 300,000 readers in 2 months, I'd have said you're crazy. And and then I'd have said, how can I do that? And now you get people complaining about free books like it's devaluing their worth or something. Whatever floats your boat, I'll take them.
Now, I want to ask you about that then, because I literally today, I've just posted about my own experience on Select. I felt I really had to do it, so I withdrew my books from the other stores, from Smashwords and iBooks and everything, and went with Select. I had over 10,000 downloads, which was, I thought was pretty good for the 5 days. And on the lending, I only had like 10 books lent in the last 2 months, which is a different thing. But I really wonder about the free books. How many of those people who get all of these free books go on to read them? And, or is this frenzy of downloading free books meaning that lots of people get your book, but a very small percentage ever read them?
I think we don't know that. I've heard 10% of the people who get a free book or a 99-cent book aren't going to read it. So, 10% do read it.
Are going to read it, yeah.
If you're thinking 1 in 10, and, everybody's got how many thousands or hundreds of books on their Kindle just since Select started, and you got to think, who's going to read these? Are they, do they devalue the book? Does the reader see it as a lesser priority? Okay, I got this for free, but I'm going to read the book that I paid $4.99 for this morning. I'm going to read that first, and then, I think a lot of people had a hoarder mentality. It's like, these are free, I better grab them, because some people say prices are going up. I don't know how you can ever suspect prices are going to go up when the history of digital media is prices always go down, but I think it's just an impulse. People see them and grab them. But I also think there's a distinct audience that only gets free books. And are they really the audience? Are they really they're not the people who are buying your book. There are different audiences. Some people will not look at a book that's cheaper than $5 because they think it's crap. It's like, well, if it's that cheap, it's got to be crap, which is obviously wrong, but that's their right as a consumer, and the consumer's always right. And some people will buy $2 to $5. Some people just want the 99-cent and under books, and there are a lot of different audiences. So why not try to reach all of them if you can?
And so, with your pricing, obviously, I know you're a fan of free. You do a lot for free, but do you have books all over the pricing scale?
Yeah, I have box sets up to $9.99. I currently have one. I just did it in Select, and it's under It's probably ranked number 700 right now, but it had 6 books in a box set, and I made it $3.99 just to come off of free and see what would happen. But it's regularly $9.99 for 6 books, and I've got some box sets that are and collaboration. One with J.R. Raines, $8.99 for 4 books. And then I've got some $4.99 box sets with 3 books. You know, I break my mystery and horror. So I've got books in almost every price range. I don't have a lot of high price products, but you know that's a different. I did move some of my prices out of $2.99 up to $3.28, which is the weird accidental thing that Blake Crouch and Joe Conrath had their books discounted by Amazon to $3.28, and then Lee Goldberg did it, and I saw it and I was like, that's a weird price. It's not $2.99, but it's not $3.99 because a lot of people do $3.99. So it's like I'll do $3.28 and just kind of break out a little and be weird. I don't know if it makes a difference, but it feels good right now.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, what you're talking about is proving the point that most of what we're doing is experimentation, isn't it? I mean, literally, we're doing new stuff all the time and just experimenting. So are there any other experiments you've been trying with marketing that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I did 2 big events with other authors, the Epic Kindle Giveaway and Big Kindle Boogie, where we basically made a bunch of books free. I think it was like 50 and then 75, and we give away a bunch of Kindle Fires and just create an event, and that was fun. But then it's hard to know. Every time's going to be different, so it's hard to say if I do it again, it'll work. The second time, Amazon was glitchy, so my numbers got really weird. My rankings didn't really seem to get helped, so it seemed like a wasted effort. But then I got a lot of books on Kindles, and that's my goal. I want to be on 20 million Kindles. However, whatever means possible, and if giving away a book is the way to do that, I'll do that. So I'll worry about the rest later. I don't, like you say, nobody knows the later. It's all an experiment. And I'll bet 5 years from now we'll look back and we still won't know what happened.
I think you're right. So, well, I guess I'm also interested in the fact that you have so many books. So when you talk about going free with some books, you know, it's not that big a deal because you have other books that are selling, so they work off each other. Do you have any advice for people who might just be on their first book? You know, what should they be doing?
I feel like the KDP Select program is really only benefits you if you are all in and you're fully committed, and it helps to have multiple books because if you fire your bullets, I call it select roulette. Basically, you drop your ball in and you see what happens on the other side. You may come out and people with the same download numbers seem to get wildly different ranks. So I don't know the formula. There's no thing where you can say if I do this, I'll get this result. So it really is roulette, which is kind of fun. But if it's if you're one of those people who just started doing this for a living and you make a wrong ball, you make a wrong bet, and you have to go back and get a day job when there are no jobs, that's kind of tough. I've got a little bit of cushion so I can gamble more, and because my needs are really low, I don't need a extravagant lifestyle, so I can take risks. And I love taking risks. Every time I take a risk, I win. I mean, I don't win the bet, but the system of constantly taking risks is paying off, and also the generosity marketing or the giving away pays off. I don't understand it, but the more I give away, the more I get. I mean, I'm sure there are some kind of karmic principles involved that I don't understand, but it works for me. And as long as it keeps working, I'm going to keep doing it. So, but if you have one book out, I would say write the next one. And don't worry about killing yourself. If you write a series, it's great. And then when you have 3 books, you've got something you can build on. But I would stay out in all the markets really. I would, and write the next book, and not worry about Select or whatever was happening, because unless you get a really big hit, you're not going to be able to live off your book anyway. And all books do fade. If you get your hopes pinned to a few stars, and the stars dim, it's hard times. So I wouldn't worry about strategy until I had the foundation first. And right now you just want to get readers. you could argue that, oh, okay, I'll make my book free and give away 20,000 copies, and I may get 1,000 readers out of it, or 2,000 readers who will buy my next book. But if your next book's not out until Christmas, who's going to remember you? Especially when they're bombarded by hundreds of thousands of books a day.
No, that's a really good point. And I certainly, with my recent thing on Select, I promoted the first book in the series and then had the second book at $2.99. So to see how that went. But certainly when you only have one book, there's kind of little point in a lot of this activity. So saying that, given that you've written so many books, what is your sort of top tips on writing books and fast, I guess? This is what I want to know. How do I speed up?
Wow, I think you just have to make the time. It's not like find the time. I think you just make the time. You make it one of the most important things in your life after whatever family or loved ones deserve your attention. And then writing, I'm completely committed to this. I do this 16 hours a day. I don't take days off. We took Valentine's Day off and goofed off and watched movies and stuff. But even when I first started this, I published my first book a little over 2 years ago, and I had a job then. I was a newspaper reporter, but I'd come home and I'd work 8 hours, and I'd work on the weekends. So I was working full time when I was making Walmart, part-time money. So my goal was to pay the light bill back then. And then over the year, as I put more books out, and I was still sending to agents and stuff, and I had some really big agents reading. And then it just got to be, why am I waiting for these guys when I can sell a book right, or I get back, I can't find a or I can't find a buyer for this. And it's like, well, you can't find them, but I can. Boom, I can put it up and find a buyer tomorrow. You've only got 30 customers, and I've got 7 billion. So, bye.
I love that. I love that attitude. And, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun, Scott.
Yeah, I don't do anything anymore unless it's fun. I don't have to do something just to make money, so I've learned to avoid things that seem like more trouble than they're worth. I don't have to write a book that I don't want to write just to make money. I don't have to participate in any events that I don't want to. I've learned how to say no. People come to me with great ideas, and I look at it and it's like, I'm not a capitalist, I'm a Taoist. It does me no good. I'm not interested, and no. So it was hard to say no when you're struggling and aspiring, but I also like to learn. If somebody's got an interesting idea and I'm going to lose money, I don't care. Or if it's going to take a lot of effort and not have a predetermined outcome, I'm cool with that. I love to try new things. I've got some stuff I'm working on for the summer I hope to pull off that are doing some online of more of these events, but I've got to kind of make them work for a lot of people to pull them off at a big scale.
No, that's fantastic. There's I'm really excited for you and, for all of us. It's such a good time to be an author, isn't it, really?
Oh, yes, the golden age. I think the golden age may have just peaked, but people don't like it when I say that, so I'll just say, hey, everybody's going to be a millionaire off of Kindle, so be happy. But my true message is this may be as good as it ever gets, so enjoy it. Enjoy every minute of it and the ease of being able to meet readers. I mean, it's really kind of ironic to me that this is the golden age of publishing. All writers have always said, all I want is readers, and now they get readers, and all they talk about is numbers and money. I mean, it's kind of like, what were you in it for all along? I'm glad to have the readers. I'm getting great fan mail from my free books. I mean, awesome stuff that says yes. This is what it's about. This is why you do this. Because this is still the hardest job in the world, even as this digital publishing is one of the few growth industries in the world right now, and it's still hard. So to be able to reach a reader and get some feedback, that's what life's about. That's why we're here. There's a lot of easier ways to just make money.
Yeah, that is true. It's definitely not about the money. But no, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And so where can people find you and your books?
Oh, I'm on Amazon. Also have foreign editions that are in the other markets too, but you can Google Scott Nicholson. My website's hauntedcomputer.com. I'm E. Scott Nicholson on Twitter. I'm Haunted Computer on Facebook. And also run Epic Kindle giveaway. We just started as continuing it as a kind of a group promotional effort, but it's only for free Kindle books. So kind of like the Pixel of Ink and eReader News Today are doing, but it's kind of a co-op. We're just just announcing our free books there basically. So Epic Kindle giveaway on Facebook and Blogspot, and I'm around, so just email me. Always respond to every email. So if you want advice, email me. I don't know much, but I'll help where I can. And I'm very grateful. I'm kind of stunned every day. I keep expecting somebody to tap me on the shoulder and say, get back to work or something. But until then, I'm going to goof off, do crazy stuff, and refuse to grow up.
Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Scott. That was brilliant.
Thanks, Joanna.